So you just got your Part 107, picked up a drone, and are probably questioning yourself, what do I charge for drone services in 2022? Well, in this video, we're gonna go through everything that I know, as I've been in the industry for over 9 years as a commercial pilot, on what to charge for drone services. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into this video. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dylan Gorman. I've been a commercial pilot for over 9 years. So with those 9 years comes a lot of experience in charging for drone services, depending on what drone I have, what service type, what industry. So before we really get into what to charge for drone services, there's 7 things that we need to look at before we can even determine what we need to charge for drone service. Those 7 things include your trainings and certification, your drone equipment, your client type / industry, what deliverables you're giving, the software that you have to purchase, insurance, and last but not least, your travel and expenses. So let's take a deep dive into each one of those specific items to figure out what to price your drone services. So to start out with, let's look at your training and certification. Outside of the obvious of getting your Part 107, there's several other certifications that you can get within the drone industry. They aren't necessarily drone specific, but they can help you with determining what you're gonna charge for your service. This will also allow you to niche down and be specialized in the drone industry. For instance, if you wanna get into thermal mapping for solar panels, rooftop inspections, or literally anything with thermography, you need to get a certain level of thermographer certification, which can range from a few days to a few months to go and get those things, and also cost a lot of money. This will also allow you to actually charge to be a thermographer in the drone industry, as you just can't pick up a thermal capable drone and charge for those services, because you really have no idea what you're looking at, and that's an easy way to get in trouble as a thermographer capturing thermal drone imagery. Another specialized certification is in the oil and gas field, where you have to have certain OSHA levels and all of these different kinds of certifications in order to even step foot in the oil and gas world. Those certifications can also take days, weeks, even months to get, and can also be another thing to add to your services as, hey, I am a qualified person, I know what I'm talking about. That's how you're able to charge more than what regular people in the drone industry charge. With that being said, there's more certifications and trainings that you can get to add to your portfolio to allow you to charge more for your services. Now let's jump into drone equipment. I really have 3 categories for this, as there's such a large range of drones that you can go and purchase. With that purchase comes the training behind each one of those drones for the industry that you're gonna get into. So those 3 categories are beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Beginner drone is anything under $1,500. That's really for your commercial real estate. It's basically bottom of the bucket type of work that you're gonna be doing, whether it's some photography, cinematography, even some video editing for commercial real estate world. This is gonna include your Mavics, your Phantoms, your DJI Minis, any really cheap Chinese drone that you can get off of Amazon or from somebody else. This is kind of the category that fits in. For your intermediate drones, that's gonna be anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000. This is your Inspires, your specialized Phantom 4 Pro drones, your Mavic 3 Cine, which I have right beside me. This will allow you to get into higher quality level of work, as you have the gear to suit that world. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean if you buy a $5,000 drone that you can charge $5,000 for a job. Don't get that mixed up, as there's been a lot of pilots that assume that, and I've had to explain that to them and educate them that it's not necessarily just about the equipment, but it's about the service that you're providing. Additionally, in that intermediate range for drones, this will allow you to get into some basic level of mapping, which is what a lot of my pilots, what they do. We're not GIS specialists, we're not tying them to GCPs, so there's a very limited range in terms of what we're able to do with these types of drones. And now for the advanced drones, these are drones that are over $10,000. These are drones that are coming with LiDAR sensors, methane detection, all kinds of specialized hardware that goes on these drones that oftentimes are even more expensive than the drone itself. A few weeks ago, I was in Atlanta doing some testing with a new custom drone that's about a $30,000 drone, and we had about a $160,000 payload on there. It was a little scary to fly, but with that, I have the experience to fly that drone, and for the application and what we were applying it to, we were able to charge top dollar for that. Again, it's not just about the drone that you have, but it's the background and the understanding and fundamentals of how you're going to apply that drone in the drone industry for the services that you're going to be charging them for. Now for the third item on that list of the client and industry type, there's really 3 main levels of industry And it kind of falls in line with the drones as well. For your real estate, that is basically the bottom of the bucket. You're not really gonna be able to charge much from that, but it is a good entry-level industry to jump into. It'll allow you to build the fundamentals of flying the drone, understanding how the drones work. And again, I really recommend a lot of people to get directly into the real estate world first. You're not gonna make much out of it, but again, it's still a good foundation to have. The industry that I operate in is the commercial real estate world, which includes some mapping, some construction. This is your intermediate services that you can provide. This will allow you to go from charging, $70 to $100 per project to anywhere from $200 to $500 per project. Again, we'll get into the pricing later, but this is kind of the realm and where I operate in, where I'm able to employ a lot more pilots than I would with just regular real estate. Commercial real estate, these clients have deeper pockets to dig into. You're talking, instead of $500,000 home of a client you're trying to provide services for, to a 10, 50, $100 million piece of property. Those people have money. Another industry is the agriculture, high-end surveying. This is where you can really start playing with some really cool toys. I like to call them toys. Of course, they're tools for the specific industry and job that you're doing. And with this client and industry type requires that intermediate / advanced drone. These are the drones that are costing over $10,000 to do these jobs because, well, those are the drones that are built for it. And then your top dogs, your solar, your transmission and distribution, and your oil and gas industry. These are clients that have hundreds of millions of dollars, but with that comes the training, certification, understanding, the equipment. I mean, all in, you're talking over $100,000 worth of certifications, drones, and understanding, and it takes years to get into the kind of industry, but for the right reasons. The barrier of entry into those industries are so high because, well, these are critical infrastructure. These are clients that rely on very accurate data. They're not gonna send somebody out there for $75 an hour and expect $10,000 worth of work. That's just not gonna happen. The fourth item on the list is your deliverables. What are you providing to your client? Is it photos? Is it videos? Is it 3D models with mapping software? Are you doing any thermography and inspection and analysis? What are you doing? That also helps determine what services you can provide and how you can price your services for your client. Alongside with deliverables comes item number 5, and that's software. It's not just about being able to fly the drone. It also comes with the software that is needed. For me, in my industry, I require drone deploy so that we can go and fly our missions, process the data, and send that deliverable of a processed map with analytics and analysis tools built into it to our client. They're paying top dollar for that because of the software that we have. Some other softwares include Raptor Maps, which is for the PV solar industry for thermography. Another software for LiDAR world is Rock Cloud from the guys over at Rock Robotic. Really cool guys. I highly recommend checking them out. You have to look at all the different softwares that you need in order to not only produce your deliverables, but for the industry that you're in, for the drones that you're gonna be purchasing. It all comes to play together. So that is another thing to look at when pricing your services. Item number 6 is drone insurance. This is probably one of the most overlooked items, but as you jump up in the tiers of the industry, the drones, and all the things that come with it, you wanna be insured. You wanna make sure that you're abiding by what your clients are requiring you, whether you need $1 million policy, $5 million, or even some cases $10 million, oil and gas field. They require this, and it is also another thing to add on top of how you charge for your service. Last and most important, number 7, is your travel and your expenses. It's not just about capturing the data, it's how do you get there and what is required to complete the job. In some cases, we've had to throw a travel per diem, and we've had to have an allowance for our pilots to purchase new equipment in order for them to complete the job. So that's just another item that you have to throw on top of that when pricing your services. All right, so now that we've gone through the 7 items to understand how to price your services, or at least what to consider for pricing your services, this is what you've been waiting for. How do you price your drone services? Well, with 9 years of experience, there's been 5 main ways that I've priced my services. One of them being an hourly rate. As an hourly rate pilot, you need to understand what all goes into it, as well as the industry. So let's get into the numbers. For the real estate worlds, and I'm talking regular real estate, not commercial real estate, pilots are charging anywhere from $75 to $150 an hour to complete the job. Your 150 plus jobs are more likely the multi-million-dollar homes if you're creating a marketing reel for it, with some other photography included in it. That's just been some of my experiences in terms of charging for the regular real estate world. For commercial real estate, again, it's anywhere from $75 all the way up to $250 an hour. These are your more advanced properties, which may take a few other certifications or background checks, just extra steps to charge for that industry. Why I also think you can charge a little bit more for commercial real estate is, well, again, deeper pockets, they've got more money. As simple as that. Now, when it comes to agriculture, construction, surveying, this is where you can really start charging a little bit more. You're talking anywhere from $150 to $500 plus an hour. And with that, it's the training, the certification, the equipment, software, insurance, deliverables, all of that comes into play when doing an hourly rate. And then for solar, oil and gas, T&D, which is transmission and distribution, those are the power lines that you see literally everywhere in the US. Same thing, $170 to $500 plus an hour. Those $500 plus an hour jobs are for your intricate inspections. I mean, these are the $75,000 drones, which I've got a video in one of those drones right here. Same little application. There's a bunch of teams out there actually running around and having that same payload that I have, doing high-end inspections on transmission and distribution lines. They're looking at extremely fine detail, bolts, nuts, screws, wires, attachments, all kinds of things. So it takes a specialized training, a good eye. There's a bunch of things that come into it for that hourly rate. Now, the second kind of rate that you can do is a day rate. What I typically do is take those same ranges that I just talked about right before for an hourly rate and multiply that by 5 to 7 hours for your hourly rate. I usually give between a 5 to 15% discount to the client for a day rate. Because if it's repetitive and you're doing it over multiple days, then you don't necessarily need to do an hourly rate. You can just do a day rate, and you're more likely to win the job that way as opposed to saying, hey, it's gonna take this many hours, or hey, I'm gonna charge you an hourly rate. A lot of times clients will kind of scratch their head and be like, well, what if you take longer than 5 hours in the day? It's simpler to just agree to a day rate. I like to do that a whole lot more, and it has gotten me jobs a whole lot quicker and approvals a whole lot quicker, as there's not much thinking behind it. It's okay, I'm paying them for the day, this is what I get for that day. Now, pricing number 3, and this is the pricing that I've actually stuck to for the last 3 years, and I don't see myself changing paths from it. It's the project type, whether it's a certain kind of deliverable or you're doing a bunch of volume with them. You set one price for the project. A project can be defined as whether it's a property or it's 5 acres of land and you have 5 acres of land that you're doing every single day. This is where you can really start negotiating for the prices, and it actually kind of falls into item number 4 of doing a custom quote, which can kind of come together, but I like to do the project type. It has allowed me to strategically price myself in the drone industry, especially in the commercial real estate worlds, where I can have a pretty high competitive price, but I'm also gonna be delivering a guaranteed deliverable at a guaranteed time, at a guaranteed rate. It also allows me to negotiate for my pilots out in the field as well, where I'm guaranteeing that they're gonna get paid an X amount of dollars for the type of work that they're doing. Item number 4, we just talked about that. Custom quote, whether you pick and choose of the kind of equipment that you're using, the kinds of deliverables, you can put all of this under one umbrella and call that a custom quote. And then item number 5 for doing a pricing structure, if it's just a specific deliverable that the client's looking for, they don't care about how much time it takes, they don't care about how many days. If it's just a set deliverable, whether it's LiDAR and providing CAD files with it, or a full BIM model, or it's thermal mapping for solar fields or rooftop inspections, and they just want a full report for it. This is how you can do a deliverable set pricing. Again, you have to look at what software you have, what you're paying for, the equipment that's being used for it, how much it costs to create that deliverable, whether you have to hire an outside firm or pay somebody on your team to create that deliverable. All of those items come into play when setting up a deliverable-based pricing structure. And then for just some miscellaneous ways to do pricing structures, if a client's requesting a quick turnaround time, you can throw a fee on top of there to prioritize their deliverable at the top of the list as opposed to what your other clients are paying for. The last miscellaneous item is, do you need to get any more specialized training? Say you're already in the oil and gas field, you have your OSHA 10, and they require that you get an OSHA 30. Well, you gotta go in for more training in order to get that job. That's something else that you can consider for your pricing. Again, that's something that you can add to the list of pricing structure for whatever you're doing for the clients. Now to get real and raw, which is what most people typically ask me of, hey, how do I go out and how do I charge for my services? Well, in my world, commercial real estate, I've been able to get $1,000+ jobs, mainly because of 1, the deliverables that we have, and 2, our turnaround time. With a large network of pilots that I have been able to build out with my team, we can basically hit every single state within a few days of an order coming through. Now, granted, I do work for a software company that has a service component built in to go and collect the data and create analysis off of it, and we take that analysis and put it into our software. So again, like I just said, it's the other software that we have included. It's not just the drone deploy that we're paying for, but it's also our custom software that we build for clients to view the data in. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a custom software to do that. Drone Deploy, Pix4D, Raptor Maps, Rock Robotic, Rock Cloud, I should say, they all have their own online platforms and ways to show and view deliverables online without physically having to send it or physically having to pay for other software to process it. Now is a very interesting time to get into the drone industry and provide custom deliverables, as now it is cheaper than ever to get into some of these specialized industries. Years ago, to get into the LiDAR industry, you used to have to pay $500,000 just for the sensor and most likely fly it on $1 million plus helicopter or a $500,000 fixed wing plane. Nowadays, you can buy a Matrice 300 for $13,000, buy a LiDAR unit for about $40,000, and now you've got a very capable sub $60,000 drone to create centimeter accurate measurements and models with LiDAR. Yes, there is still training, understanding, and fundamentals of that you have to train and learn on to provide those kinds of models for your clients, but overall, it is more obtainable to get into these markets. Same with thermography and same with methane detection in the oil and gas industry. Years ago, it used to be really expensive, but nowadays, you can get into these industries for a whole lot less cost. Now, I hope you made it this far, as this is the most important part in structuring your prices for the drone industry and your drone services. These are the big no-nos in pricing your services. Do not undercut by a large margin. What a large margin is no more than 15% than your competitor. That is the quickest way to lose a lot of respect in the industry and basically get blacklisted. As competitive as the drone industry is, and all of us wanting to make money, we cannot do this to ourselves. This is exactly how it becomes a race to the bottom of the bucket, and the only companies and people that are gonna survive are the ones that have cash on hand to stay afloat, as they have a whole lot less risk because they're just much bigger and they could take on the extra cost. As a pilot myself, I have seen this time and time again. This is why the real estate world for drone services is so hard to get into, is because you have people online charging next to nothing, literally $50 to go out and capture some photos, and then it just makes it really hard for everybody else to get into the market. People that are charging $50 to take photos of a piece of property are really just big companies that are absorbing all of these pilots and basically giving them pennies on the dollar. Another big no-no is do not overpromise. What I mean by overpromise is, say that you can produce a LiDAR point cloud, but you only have a Mavic 2 Pro. You're gonna give that deliverable to the client, they're gonna get very bad data, and then when it comes to pricing out your services again, or even allowing other people to get into the same industry as you, there's gonna be a loss of trust. Other companies are probably gonna hear from word of mouth or just see a deliverable from that and not really trust you, and that makes it hard to get into the industry. 3 years ago, when I first did drone mapping and tried to charge $700 for the first scan, our first client laughed at us and only paid us $125 because they said that they're used to having people charge them only $75 for the work. Now, yes, it was still a learning experience, and it sounds like I'm going against my first rule of don't undercut. I had to start somewhere, and after we quickly proved out our model, I was then able to increase my rates to the $500+ per property for a scan. Part of the don't overpromise is just don't lie about what you can provide. One of the biggest reasons why I love the drone community is we pride ourselves on working together to get to that next level. If there's something that you can't provide, say you don't have LiDAR or have the thermography capabilities, find a local pilot, find a local company that you can work with. It's better to work with the community than to go off on yourself and try to do everything. So overall, just don't undercut people, don't lie about your capabilities, and work together. This is how we grow the industry as a family, because at the end of the day, drones are gonna be the #1 tool in everybody's back pocket, no matter what industry you're in. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching this video. I've got some really cool videos that I work on and put out every single week about drones, the drone industry, software, all kinds of things revolved around drones. So if you want to see more videos from me in the future, make sure to subscribe. If you like the video, make sure to drop a like, and let's have a conversation. Tell me your thoughts about this. Tell me some of your frustrations. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.